My husband's best friend was living a double life, and I had to tell my best friend, okay, I genuinely do not even know where to start with this, because every time I think I have processed what happened, I remember one more detail and get angry all over again. So if this is rambling, that is because my brain is currently just one giant spinning wheel of rage. Guilt, disbelief, and the occasional thought of, you have got to be kidding me. My husband and I are both 24. Earlier this year, we moved about 3,000 miles to Alaska after months of planning, like spreadsheets, budgets, boxes, goodbye parties, the whole thing. We were supposed to be starting this exciting new chapter of our lives. Instead, we accidentally moved into the middle of the most insane relationship disaster imaginable. Seriously, if somebody pitched this as a TV show, I would complain that the plot was unrealistic. Anyway, back home, we had a really close friend group. My husband's best friend, Ralph, had been dating my best friend, Rachel, for 2 years. They were serious. Like, everybody assumed these two were endgame. Rachel was supposed to be my bridesmaid. Ralph was supposed to be my husband's best man. And I genuinely thought we were all going to be standing at each other's weddings, growing old together, annoying each other at family holidays, all that wholesome friendship stuff. Yeah. About that. Ralph moved to Alaska first in January 2026 for work. He stayed in crew housing. Rachel stayed back home, and they made long-distance work. The plan was for Ralph to get settled, then eventually bring Rachel up. Pretty normal. Then his crew housing ended. He needed a roommate because Alaska is apparently allergic to affordable housing. My husband and I wanted our own married space, so living with Ralph wasn't happening. Enter Maggie. Maggie was a girl from back home who was in the military and was also moving to Alaska. She shared an interest in aviation with Ralph and the guys, so everyone knew her as a friend. Ralph and Maggie decided to get a place together. Rachel was uncomfortable, which looking back, I mean, girl, I owe you an apology from another dimension. Because yes, I understood why she was uncomfortable. Her boyfriend was moving across the country and immediately getting a female roommate. But Ralph reassured everyone. He loved Rachel. Maggie was just a friend. Nothing was happening. My husband believed him. I believed him. Rachel eventually tried to believe him too. And I was constantly telling her, he loves you. He would never cheat on you. I want to crawl under a rock just typing that, because I wasn't lying to her. I genuinely believed it. That somehow makes me feel even worse. Once we moved to Alaska, we started hanging out with Ralph and Maggie. Maggie made a few comments that seemed weird. Nothing that made me immediately think, oh, this man has been running a secret romantic operation for 2 years. She'd say things like, Ralph knows how I am, or Ralph needs to get us a dining table. And I just think, okay, roommates, friends, whatever. People back home kept saying, that's just how Maggie is. So I shrugged it off. Whenever Rachel came up, Ralph said he was planning to move her up soon. Maggie never questioned it. Everything seemed weird but explainable. Then 4th of July happened. Ralph and Maggie went camping together. I assumed Rachel knew. Why wouldn't she? They're dating. He lives with Maggie. They're going camping. Whatever. Then Rachel texted me. She was worried because Ralph told her he was camping alone. He'd apparently said he had no service. I casually told her he was with Maggie. And that was when I realized she had no idea. She was furious. Obviously. My husband and I tried to calm everything down. We thought maybe it was just a stupid misunderstanding. Maybe Ralph knew Rachel, would be uncomfortable and lied because he didn't want to have the conversation. Still terrible, but we didn't think it was, this. Rachel and Ralph talked. They worked it out. I apologized to Ralph afterward for getting involved. He told me it was no big deal. I believed him, again, because apparently I was determined to win the award for Most Trusting Idiot of the Year. Then came my husband's birthday weekend. We all went kayaking. Eventually, we ended up at a bar. The guys were outside loading the kayaks. Maggie and I went inside. We're talking casually. I mentioned Rachel. I said something about how much she loved the pictures I had sent her of everyone. Maggie looked at me, confused, and asked, who is Rachel to Ralph? I actually laughed, because I thought she was joking. I said, she's his girlfriend. Maggie just stared at me. I said, they've been together for 2 years. Then she asked, exclusively? And I remember thinking, what kind of question is that? So I said, yes, exclusively. She asked, like actually exclusive? I said, yes, 100%. And her entire face changed. She went pale. And then she told me, Ralph and Maggie had been sleeping together for 2 years. 2 years. I need everybody to understand that. This was not some drunken mistake. This wasn't a recent hookup. This wasn't something that started when they moved in together. 2 years. Apparently, before any of us moved, Ralph would sneak Maggie into his room through a window. I am sorry. I know this is serious, but I need to pause here. Who does this? Who is living a normal adult life and thinks, yes, the best solution to my secret affair is to start using my bedroom window like I'm a Victorian teenager sneaking out after curfew. Apparently, Ralph, he had been sleeping with Maggie while dating Rachel, and Maggie had absolutely no idea Rachel was his girlfriend. She thought Ralph was single, or at least that Rachel wasn't important. Whenever Maggie saw something about Rachel, Ralph would tell her Rachel was a nobody, or he'd tell her to mind her business. When Ralph and Maggie moved in together in Alaska, things apparently got even more intense. He love-bombed her. They slept together regularly. And meanwhile, Rachel was 3,000 miles away believing she was in a committed relationship with the man she loved. Maggie was horrified, like completely horrified. She didn't blame me. She didn't blame Rachel. She was devastated, and she immediately agreed that Rachel needed to know. Then my husband walked back into the bar. He took one look at me. Apparently, my face was doing that thing where your soul has temporarily left your body. He pulled me aside and asked what happened. I told him everything. He was stunned, absolutely stunned. Then he said we would tell Rachel together. He didn't want me carrying this alone. Meanwhile, Maggie was so overwhelmed by everything she'd just found out that she threw up at the bar, which honestly felt fair. I mean, if you discover that the person you've been sleeping with has secretly had a girlfriend for 2 years, I don't think there is a socially approved emotional response. You can cry. You can scream. You can throw up. You can stare into the middle distance and reconsider every decision you've ever made. All valid. So now I'm sitting there thinking, how do I tell my best friend that her boyfriend of 2 years has been cheating on her for the entire relationship? And this isn't just some random guy. This is my husband's best friend. This is the man who was supposed to be his best man. This is the man I had defended. This is the man I had reassured Rachel about. And Rachel is 3,000 miles away. I knew I had to tell her. I just had absolutely no idea how. I barely slept. The next morning, I woke up exhausted. I hadn't even properly checked my phone yet when I saw I had multiple missed calls from Rachel and one text. He broke up with me. My heart sank. And for about 5 seconds, I actually thought maybe he told her. Maybe he finally confessed. Maybe he did one decent thing. Maybe he told her the truth. I called her immediately. She was sobbing. And the very first thing she asked me was, "Did you know?" And I said, "I'm just glad he was the one who actually told you everything." Silence. Then Rachel said, "What do you mean everything?" My stomach dropped. I asked what Ralph had told her. She said he had simply told her that he didn't want to be with her anymore. That's it. No confession. No explanation. No accountability. Nothing. He basically broke up with her before the truth came out. He didn't tell her about Maggie. He didn't tell her he'd been cheating. He didn't tell her anything. He just wanted out. I snapped. I literally said, "He didn't tell you the truth." And then I told her everything. I told her about Maggie. I told her they'd been sleeping together for 2 years. I told her Maggie didn't know Rachel existed as his girlfriend. I told her what Ralph had been saying about her. And then I had to listen to my best friend completely break down over the phone. That was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. Because there is no good way to tell somebody the person they love has been lying to them for 2 years. There is no gentle version. There is no, "Hey, quick question. How attached are you to your current reality?" You just have to say it. And then you sit there while their world falls apart. After she processed everything, Rachel asked me for Maggie's number. She told me she didn't blame Maggie. She wanted answers. She wanted to understand what had happened, and she wanted to make sure Maggie was okay too. And somehow, the 2 women Ralph had been lying to ended up supporting each other. They're talking now. They're comparing stories. They're figuring out what lies he told each of them. Meanwhile, my husband and I are trying to figure out what the hell we're doing about our wedding next month. Because here's the thing. My husband and I legally got married at the courthouse before we moved to Alaska. Next month, we're flying back home for the actual wedding celebration. The ceremony, the vows, the family, the friends. The whole thing. And Ralph was supposed to be standing beside my husband as his best man was. Because my husband is devastated. Ralph isn't just some friend. He's his best friend. They lived together in college. They've known each other for years. My husband genuinely thought Ralph was a good person. And now he's having to process the fact that the person he trusted most was apparently living an entire secret life. A lot of people have asked how my husband didn't know. They lived together. Sure. But my husband lived in the basement. Ralph lived on another floor. My husband was focused on school, our relationship, and his own life. He wasn't standing outside Ralph's bedroom with a clipboard documenting suspicious window activity. He didn't know. None of us knew. Ralph hid this from everybody, including his best friend. My husband feels horrible because he spent months defending Ralph to Rachel. He thought he was defending an innocent friend from unfair suspicion. Now he feels sick about it. I told him the decision about Ralph being his best man was his. I wasn't going to tell him what to do, but I did tell him that whatever he decided, I needed him to decide based on who Ralph actually was, not who we thought he was. Eventually, Ralph pulled my husband aside at work. He apologized. He admitted he'd lied to him, and my husband told him, "You're out of the wedding party. Ralph can attend the ceremony. That's it. He isn't invited to the reception. He isn't the best man. He isn't standing beside my husband." And honestly, I am proud of my husband, but I also feel horrible for him. Because making the right decision doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Ralph was like a brother to him. My husband lost his best friend, and that's something people seem to forget when they're talking about how easy this decision should be. Yes, Ralph absolutely deserved to be cut out, but my husband still has to grieve the friendship he thought he had. Ralph apparently told my husband he wanted to apologize to me too. My husband told him to back off. Thank God, because I don't need Ralph standing in front of me saying, "I'm sorry," while I'm trying not to launch myself through a wall. I am still furious. I am also guilty. And this is the part I'm struggling with the most. I know I didn't cheat on Rachel. I know I didn't lie to her. I know I didn't know. But I spent months telling her that Ralph loved her. I told her she had nothing to worry about. I defended him. And then I had to be the person who told her the worst news of her life. That feels awful. I was scared Rachel would hate me, or think I had known, or think I had helped cover it up, or just decide that being around me reminded her too much of Ralph. So I've been checking on her constantly. And surprisingly, she hasn't pulled away. She told me our friendship is solid. She still wants to be my bridesmaid, which honestly made me cry because I was fully prepared for her to tell me she couldn't be part of the wedding anymore. Instead, she apparently decided to stay, and then she made a joke. She said she might bring Maggie as her date to the wedding, just to rub it in Ralph's face. I laughed, like really laughed. And I needed that, because this entire thing has been horrible. Rachel lost her boyfriend. Maggie lost the person she thought she was building a relationship with. My husband lost his best friend. I lost somebody I genuinely thought I knew. And somehow, after all of this, the 2 women Ralph deceived are the ones supporting each other. That is probably the weirdest part. Ralph spent 2 years lying to everyone. He managed to convince all of us he was one person while secretly being someone completely different. And now the people he hurt are standing together. Meanwhile, he managed to remove himself from his best friend's wedding party entirely through the impressive power of his own terrible decisions. things. Honestly, I couldn't have planned a more satisfying consequence if I tried. I still feel guilty. I still feel angry. I still replay every conversation and wonder what I missed. But I'm trying to remind myself of something my husband said to me. He told me, "We didn't fail Rachel by not knowing. We would have failed her if we knew and stayed quiet." And I think that's what I'm holding on to, because I didn't know. I wish I had. I wish I had seen everything. I wish I could go back and stop myself from telling Rachel to trust him, but I can't. All I can do now is be there for her. Be there for Maggie. Support my husband while he processes losing his best friend. And somehow plan a wedding. A wedding where Rachel will still be standing beside me, and where Ralph absolutely will not. At this point, I'm just grateful that the people who were lied to aren't lying to each other. The friendship survived. The women survived. My marriage survived. My husband's morals survived. Ralph's position as best man, not so much. And honestly, good. Because apparently, the only thing Ralph was truly committed to was making sure everyone around him had the worst possible year. Mission accomplished, buddy.